fate of the Union rests on one man's shoulders. Major General Winfield Scott Hancock, commander of the 2nd Corps, defender of the center. Gettysburg, Day 3. His corps is shattered, his men exhausted beyond measure. They cling to a thin line of dirt and stone, knowing the storm is coming. Then, hell erupts. Not just cannon fire, a hurricane of iron designed to break his will. The ground shudders, the air screams, and through the smoke, Hancock sees it. The Confederacy's last desperate gamble, a tidal wave of gray. 15,000 men, advancing with terrifying precision. Their target, his center, his line, his responsibility. This is Pickett's charge, the South's all-or-nothing throw of the dice. You know the name, you know the legend, but you've never heard it like this, because today, you stand beside Hancock himself. In the eye of the storm, this is his raw, unfiltered account, penned hours after the guns fell silent. The terror, his line breaking, enemy flags planted on his wall, the desperate seconds where the entire war hung in the balance, and the incredible courage that snatched victory from the jaws of annihilation. This isn't history rewritten, this is history lived. The eyewitness account of the man they called Hancock the Superb. On the day he faced his greatest test, this is how 15,000 Confederates stormed the Union Center, and why what Hancock saw and did will shock you to your core. Prepare to witness Gettysburg's desperate hour through the general's eyes. But before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel to support our community. The Corps had been rendered so feeble through its casualties on the 2nd that by the 3rd it demanded every man fit for duty within the battle line merely to occupy the positions held the day before. Colonel Carroll's brigade, part of General Hayes's division, was held back by General Howard. Save for the 8th Ohio, it saw no action alongside the 2nd Corps that day. The early hours brought relative calm across our front, though heavy and persistent firing on the right signaled the enemy's concentration against the 12th Corps. Minor clashes occurred sporadically between opposing skirmishers, while the Corps' artillery often effectively dueled with the adversary's guns. From 11 a.m. until 1 p.m., an eerie calm prevailed. Around 1 o'clock, seemingly on a signal, the enemy unleashed upon our front the most intense artillery barrage I have witnessed. Their cannon, positioned roughly 1,400 yards from our lines on average, formed a crescent stretching from Gettysburg town to a point facing Round Top Mountain. Estimates placed their number between 115 and 150. The sky teemed with shells. Rarely was there a moment when several weren't bursting simultaneously. Little shelter existed from the uneven terrain. Soon the open ground behind the lines was swept clear of anything not fixed. The infantry held their ground with remarkable resolve, seeking cover as best they could behind their hastily built, slight defenses and the land's natural features. Hardly a straggler was visible. All endured the fierce bombardment's end. Understanding its grim portent, the Corps' artillery, poorly furnished with shot, answered the foe most bravely, sustaining an unequal fight in a manner that brought the utmost distinction to this service branch. Brown's Battery, Battery B, 1st Rhode Island, severely depleted on the 2nd, and having exhausted its canister then, withdrew before the cannonade ended, being unfit for further duty. The other batteries persisted until only canister shot was left, then fell silent. After 1 hour and 45 minutes, the enemy's fire slackened, and instantly their infantry was observed in woods beyond the Emmitsburg Road, readying to charge. A dense skirmish line soon moved forward, trailed by 2 extended battle lines, bolstered intermittently by compact infantry columns. Their formations displayed a steadiness and exactness that compelled admiration from those witnessing that historic moment. The enemy's left stretched just beyond the right flank of General Alexander Hayes's division, their right approximately opposite General Gibbon's left. Their battlefront thus spanned no more than 2 of the Corps' diminished and understrength divisions. The entire assault force was reckoned to number over 15,000. No effort was made to impede the enemy's progress until their foremost line neared about 700 yards from our lines, whereupon a weak artillery fire commenced against it. Yet, suffering no significant loss and never pausing its resolute approach, the column pushed onward within musket range without immediately drawing our fire, our men displaying a marked inclination to hold their volley until it could prove lethal. 2 regiments from Stannard's Vermont Brigade, 1st Corps, stationed in a small copse ahead of and at a sharp angle to the main line, first fired obliquely upon the enemy column's right flank. This caused troops on that flank to fold slightly towards their left. They continued advancing steadfastly, however, without halting to return fire. Our rifled artillery pieces, having expended all canister, were now pulled back or left idle on the field, awaiting the infantry clash's outcome. Upon reaching between 200 and 300 yards, the enemy troops encountered a withering fire from Gibbon's and Hayes's divisions, which they swiftly answered. The battle instantly grew fierce and widespread. Before Hayes's division, the combat proved relatively brief. Cut down by canister from Woodruff's battery, by fire from 2 regiments, General Hayes had astutely placed on his extreme front and right, and by volleys from supporting lines behind, the enemy broke in disarray, abandoning 15 flags and nearly 2,000 prisoners to this division. Those enemy troops not shattered before the 3rd Division shifted rightward, reinforcing the line assaulting Gibbon's division. 2 regiments of the brigade, the 69th and 71st Pennsylvania, were positioned behind a low stone wall and a slight breastwork they had hastily erected. The rest of the brigade stood behind the crest, some 60 paces to the rear, arranged to fire over the heads of those in front. As the enemy line, spearheaded by General Armistead, nearly reached the stone wall, most of Webb's brigade stationed there abandoned their post, though fortunately not retreating entirely. By the personal courage of General Webb and his officers, they were promptly reformed behind the aforementioned crest, now held by the brigade's remnants. Encouraged by this perceived vulnerability, the enemy pressed forward more boldly, many crossing the breastwork vacated by our troops. The fighting here became extremely brutal and intimate, as enemy battle flags were soon seen flying atop the stone wall. At this juncture, Colonel Devereux, commanding the 19th Massachusetts Volunteers, eager to reach the critical point, requested my permission to shift his regiment right and forward where the line was breached. I consented, and his regiment, along with the 42nd New York Volunteers on its right, advanced there immediately. However, as the enemy had now withdrawn from Colonel Hall's front, as previously noted, this officer rapidly moved his command by the right flank to further bolster General Webb's position, followed directly by Harrow's brigade. This maneuver was executed, albeit with some disorder, due to men leaving ranks to shoot from the breastwork. The situation was now highly irregular. Men from all brigades had partially lost regimental cohesion, yet individually stood firm. The eagerness of individual commanders to swiftly seal the enemy penetration, compounded by battle smoke and the ferocity of close combat, caused this confusion. Nevertheless, the breach was now sealed. In orderly array, our line would have stood 4 ranks deep. The colors of various regiments were now pushed forward, defiantly waving against the enemy's long array of battle flags. The men pressed steadfastly after them, spurred by their officers' energetic commands and example, and after moments of savage combat, the enemy troops were driven back, casting down their weapons and seeking safety in flight or by prostrating themselves to evade our fire. The battle flags were ours, the victory secured.